Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video we will be looking at AQA A-Level Psychology 2024 Paper 3 Exemplar Answers for Gender, which you need to know for AQA A-Level Psychology. I hope you enjoy this video and find it helpful. Let's get started. Please note that these answers have been produced with knowledge of the mark scheme but have not been approved by the mark scheme themselves. There are 3 assessment objectives, AOs, in psychology. In this video they are color-coded. AO1 Knowledge, purple. AO2 Application, blue. AO3 Evaluation, red and green. A psychologist studied the effects of sex role stereotyping in the media. There were 60 participants. The psychologist assigned the first 30 people on the alphabetical list of participants to Group 1 and assigned the remaining 30 people to Group 2. The psychologist asked participants in Group 1 to watch a list of sex role stereotyped TV programs over the course of a month. The psychologist asked participants in Group 2, the control group, to watch a list of TV programs which did not show sex role stereotyping over the course of a month. Question 1. One way of improving this study would be to use random allocation. Explain how random allocation could have been carried out. 3 marks. To improve the study, random allocation could have been implemented by assigning participants to groups using a random number generator or by putting all 60 names in a hat. The researcher would then pick out a name and allocate to Group 1, then another name then allocate to Group 2 and keep doing this until there are an equal number in both groups, 30 each. This method ensures that each participant has an equal chance of being assigned to either Group 1 or Group 2, minimizing potential bias. To analyze the results, the psychologist calculated the median sex role stereotyping score in a questionnaire for participants in each group at the end of the month. A high score in the questionnaire means a participant shows higher sex role stereotypes attitudes. The results are shown in the following table. Table 3 Median sex role stereotyping score in a questionnaire for Group 1 and Group 2. Question 2. What conclusion could the psychologist make from the results in Table 3? Justify your answer. 2 marks. A conclusion that the psychologist could make from the results in Table 3 is that participants exposed to sex role stereotyped TV programs, Group 1, exhibited higher median sex role stereotyping scores, 71 out of 100, compared to those exposed to non-stereotyped programs, Group 2, with a median score of 42. This suggests that exposure to sex role stereotyped media may contribute to the internalization of stereotypical attitudes towards gender roles, as evidenced by the significant difference in scores between the two groups. Question 3. After conducting the study, the psychologist wrote up a psychological report. Which section of the psychological report should include information about how the participants were allocated to the two groups? 1 mark. The method section of the psychological report should include information about how the participants were allocated to the two groups. Question 4. Suggest 2 examples of sex role stereotyped behavior that might have occurred in the TV programs watched by Group 1. 2 marks. One example of sex role stereotyped behavior that might have occurred in the TV programs watched by Group 1 is portraying men as assertive and dominant while depicting women as nurturing and submissive. A second example of sex role stereotyped behavior that might have occurred in the TV programs watched by Group 1 is showing male characters engaging in traditionally masculine activities like sports or leadership roles while female characters are portrayed in domestic settings or as objects of desire. Question 5. Discuss the role of identification in the development of gender, 8 marks. Social learning theory, SLT, primarily developed by Albert Bandura, explains gender development as a process rooted in socialization and experience. It suggests that children learn gender roles and behaviors by observing, imitating, and internalizing the actions of others in their environment. Identification occurs when a child relates to a model and wants to be like them. This psychological process means the child sees the model as someone like me or someone they aspire to be. Identification influences who children choose to imitate, and this is often someone of the same sex who behaves in a way that aligns with societal gender norms. A limitation of the social learning theory as an explanation of gender development is that modeling may be constrained by pre-existing stereotypes. Perry and Bussey, 1979, found that children only imitated same-sex models when their behavior was in line with traditional gender stereotypes. For example, children did not imitate same-sex models displaying gender-inconsistent behavior, e.g., a boy wearing a dress, suggesting imitation is filtered through existing beliefs about gender. This implies that while observation is important, children may not adopt all behaviors they see, especially if those behaviors conflict with internalized norms. The psychodynamic explanation of gender development is rooted in Freud's psychoanalytic theory, which emphasizes the influence of the unconscious mind, early childhood experiences, and psychosexual stages in shaping personality and behavior. According to Freud, gender identity emerges primarily during the phallic stage of psychosexual development, around ages 3 to 6, when children become aware of their own genitals and the physical differences between males and females. During this stage, Freud proposed two key complexes that underpin the development of gender identity: the Oedipus complex in boys and the Electra complex in girls. Identification and internalization are central to the psychodynamic explanation. Through identification with the same-sex parent, the child begins to adopt gender-appropriate behaviors, roles, and attitudes. Internalization ensures that these traits become part of the child's enduring personality. Thus, Freud argued that gender development is the result of unconscious emotional conflict and its resolution during the early years of life. A strength of the psychodynamic explanation of gender development is that it was one of the first to consider unconscious processes in development. Freud's model introduced the idea that unresolved internal conflicts, such as repressed desires, could shape a person's identity and behavior later in life. This opened up psychology to consider the inner world of the mind, which has influenced modern models like the cognitive and psychotherapeutic approaches. This is a strength because it highlights Freud's contribution to the broader development of psychological thought, even if his specific theories lack scientific rigor. A limitation of the psychodynamic explanation of gender development is that it is based on a single case study. Freud's entire theory of the Oedipus complex, a key part of gender development in his psychodynamic model, was based on the case study of a 5-year-old boy known as Little Hans, Freud, 1909. This makes the foundation of the theory both anecdotal and extremely limited in scope. The case was also reported secondhand by Hans' father, who was known to be a strong supporter of Freud, introducing clear bias. This is a limitation because it suggests that the theory lacks generalizability and objectivity, making it difficult to apply the findings universally or scientifically. Question 6. Outline and evaluate psychological research into androgyny. 8 marks. Psychologist Sandra Bem, 1974, argued that it was more psychologically healthy to avoid fixed sex role stereotypes. Bem believed that men and women should feel free to adopt a variety of masculine and feminine type behaviors to suit their personality and should not be stifled to one gender personality type, as stifling a person's personality can have significant psychological costs, e.g. mental disorders. She therefore devised a way of measuring both masculinity and femininity independently and the extent to which a person is androgynous. Bem created a psychological self-report questionnaire, called the Bem Sex Role Inventory, BSRI. It was developed by asking 100 American undergraduates which personality traits they thought were desirable for men or women. From this, a list of 60 characteristics and traits, 20 of which could be classified as masculine, 20 feminine, and 20 neutral, distractors not associated with either gender. Masculine behaviors included aggressive, ambitious, dominant, authoritative, competitive, assertive. Feminine behaviors included affectionate, compassionate, sensitive, caring, gentle, empathetic, sympathetic. Neutral behaviors included adaptable, sincere, helpful, truthful. Participants would then rate themselves on how true the statements were for them personally on a Likert scale of 1, never true, to 7, always true. The scores were then added up and translated to 2 dimensions, masculinity, femininity, and androgyny, unclassified, undifferentiated as follows: mask, high mask, low fem, fem, low mask, high fem, androgynous, high mask, high fem, and undifferentiated, low mask, low fem. Added 1977. Bem suggested that people who are highly androgynous are more psychologically healthy, have greater mental well-being, and are better equipped to adapt to a range of situations and contexts due to their extensive skill set than people who are strongly masculine, strongly feminine, or undifferentiated, therefore making androgyny more advantageous. A strength of the BSRI is that it has test-retest reliability and was established in a logical manner. Bem scientifically established relevant traits using a large sample of 50 males and 50 females and asking them to rate 200 traits in terms of the extent they represented maleness and femaleness. The traits that scored the highest in each category became the 20 masculine and 20 feminine traits on the scale. The BSRI was then piloted with over 1,000 students, and the results broadly corresponded with the participants' own description of their gender identity. In a follow-up study, a smaller sample of the same students produced similar scores when the students were tested a month later. This is a strength because it suggests that at the time it was developed, the questionnaire appeared to be a reliable way of measuring androgyny. A limitation of the BSRI is that it is subjectively assessed. Bem's scale is a self-report measure, and androgyny is a type of gender, and gender is a social construct. Because of this, each individual will have a differing opinion about the extent to which they are androgynous and may not have an insight into their own gender identity or an understanding of their personality and behavior. On top of this, each individual will have a different interpretation of the questionnaires' 7-point Likert scale scoring when they self-assess their own personalities and traits. This is a limitation because it suggests that the BSRI is not an objective, scientific way of assessing gender identity. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content like this. Bye.